welcome to a special game-filled edition of Select Start, the video game podcast for ACMG Presents Talk Time Live and TalkTimeLive.com. I am your host, Xavier Josiah, and in this episode, this is our annual episode covering WWE 2K games. This year is 25, and of course, when I do this, I don't like to do this alone. I like to have a tag partner, and what better tag partner did I have to none other than Boris, Roberto Aguilar of A Plus Productions, and he's back to talk about what he thought about the game. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about this. We're going to get deep. We're going to get as deep as possible with this game because we're wrestling fans first and foremost. And this is one of my favorite times of the year, as far as gaming and video games. So let's welcome Boris back to the show. Boris, what's going on?
Oh, thank you for having me back, my friend. This is one of my favorite episodes that we do together. I know that we do a lot of reviews together, but this particular 2K review is always a fun one. And I think that this one is going to be a in-depth, great discussion about not only wrestling, but gaming.
Absolutely. So before we do that, like I forgot to tell you this when we were, running down what we were going to talk about. We got to talk wrestling in general right now. I mean, it's only appropriate, but first and foremost, you were at the now historical, infamous Elimination Chamber pay-per-view live. What was that experience like? And first talk about the experience, the overall ambiance of the audience and being there live, and then talk about what the reaction was and your reaction was when the craziest thing happened in the longest time in wrestling history.
Right? Yeah, no, man. It was a great weekend, honestly. And the hype to the weekend was there, right? Triple H started planting the seeds earlier in the week when he said, Elimination Chamber is going to change the dynamic of pro wrestling. It's going to be turned upside down, I think was the exact quote. And that's exactly how it felt throughout the entire weekend. You knew something was going to happen throughout the weekend. Just talking to people within the company, talking to other media people, you knew something was being planned. You knew something was in the works. You knew something was in the air. And not only that, man, but it was really cool to be back at the Skydome / Rogers Center. I call it the Skydome. It was really cool having wrestling back there, right? First show.
Skydome, correct me, because Skydome is the same place they had WrestleMania, was 17? 18 with The Rock and Hogan.
Yeah, so it's already a hub for special moments, right? And I think WWE, as you know, right, since Triple H has taken over creative, they're really leaning into respecting the history, right? So
it's so obvious. It is so obvious.
It is. It's so obvious. Just even look at their Hall of Fame inductions, and the fact that we're referencing names of the past, whether they're in the company or not, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
and we're going to talk about it in this game too, by the way. Like it continues in this game. So I mean, big time. Continue, but
yeah, and that exactly. And I'm really excited to talk about that part. But yeah, man, it was just, you knew something was in the air all weekend, and just the atmosphere on Saturday night. Like people were already there hours before, and people were just making noise already. The stadium wasn't fully sold, but what they had already like arranged was sold out with about 40,000. Which, man. Again,
that's not a number to sneeze about either, by the way.
Exactly.
Regardless.
It could have led, because the building is so large, I had this fear of how we were going to sound, not only live, but through the TV mics. But honestly, the crowd was electric from the moment the American anthem started to the moment the cameras were turned off. The crowd was honestly electric, and throughout the entire night, everyone got the reaction that you thought they would get. It was a very much Toronto crowd. Just honestly, one of the best pay-per-views I've attended live, if not the best. And it just continues this tradition of 2025 being the year of wrestling. This past weekend we had a hell of a show from AEW. It's just like we've been blessed.
We officially have entered a new boom period. There's no doubt about it. AEW Revolution has shown that, and then Elimination Chamber has also proven that as well. I mean, and then also arguably I want to just say the best. I'm going to go on a limb and say the greatest year for women's wrestling.
Absolutely.
It is. I mean, promos, matches, just insane. I don't. I can't name another year. Now, granted, all right, I will say that I haven't watched WWE as much as you have because I can't. I stepped down. I stepped out for a few years, intentionally, but I don't remember ever seeing the women this good. Even sometimes better than the guys in a lot of ways. I mean, Bianca and Naomi to Mariah and Tony and their promos alone, and just, I mean, Emmys need to be thrown at people.
Honestly,
from a wrestling standpoint.
You're 100% right, man. What we're getting right now is unprecedented. I will say there were some years where the women's division saved WWF from absolute obscurity during the
Becky Lynch years, I'm sure, too.
Yeah. But this year, we're seeing it from all aspects, man. We are seeing this from, like you said, from the promos to the in-ring to just the importance of things. We talked about Bianca Belair, Naomi, and Jade Cargill. We talked about Toni Storm and Mara May. Let's look at this past week on NXT. Stephanie McKeer and Julia just tearing it up, along with Roxanne Perez and Jordynne Grace. Like, we are getting the best stuff.
I cannot. I feel like I had the best strategy of stepping down from WWE and coming back at the right time. Because I came into a hell of a good era right now. This is just Triple H needs to. I commend this dude, and knowing and understanding too. Like, not everything's going to be perfect, and not everything's going to be the way I want it because of he's picking up where Vince McMahon left off, and he has to deal with a lot of the things that he left behind, that I'm sure like him or what is his name? Emmanuel.
Yeah.
That they have, there's a lot of things they have to deal with regardless that they probably wouldn't want to in the beginning, but it is what it is. But with that said, he's doing his best to try to be as neutral and diplomatic as possible with the way he books, with the way he runs the place. Especially when it comes to TKO, contrast to what UFC's doing. It is just night and day with those two companies in the same realm. But it makes me, I feel great watching Raw and SmackDown again. And I've been wanting to do that for quite some time. Just under the circumstances, I just, morally and ethically, I couldn't, and I wasn't in the media to actually have to cover that type of thing. So, it's just a great time to be a fan right now in the world of wrestling.
Absolutely. And that translates direct into the video games.
There you go. Absolute. So we are going to do our normal video game review style. Boris is he's now sophomore to this. We did this last year. And now we're going to do it again. We're going to run down the same categories of what we thought of this game based on the criteria of the grading system that talks about originality, visual presentation and performance, sound and music, gameplay, fun factor, replay value, actor performances. That's going to be a really fun one there, and storytelling as well. Which I'm really looking forward to talking about the My Rise story this year. So before we do that, I want to talk about the noticeable changes in this year's game. And Boris, you're online as much as I am, and you're on some of these platforms and threads that I'm in as well, especially when it comes to 2K or whatever like that, or video game threads. The one common thing that we always hear every year is for somebody who probably has never really bought the game that just want to jump in and just say, like, this thing's the same thing every year. It's the same game every year. Why y'all keep buying the same thing? And I agree to some extent. Like, at some point, I want to just stop buying this game and make it an ongoing game for, like, do what Capcom is doing with Street Fighter. They come out with Street Fighter, but they keep adding on to it for at least 3 to 5 years, and then they get a new game. I don't feel like that we really need to get a game on a yearly basis. Do you agree with that?
I do to a certain extent, right? I think that there are certain changes, especially thinking about this as a developer, right? You get
Hmm.
new APIs for the new generation consoles, and you're learning them. So the first iteration of the game might not be the best, and the improvements that you learn, from performance to graphics
Yeah.
to everything else, you can't justify it. But
Hmm.
overall, in my heart of hearts, I feel the same way as you. Like if we had a game every 2 years, oh man.
I think not only two, maybe three, to that extent, gives them enough time to really fully work on the game, tweak it, make sure that there's no bumps in the road. Now, I will give them credit. I will give them absolute credit. Since I played the game since it was released, we got the early release of it. They have quickly resolved issues and troubleshooted issues, and we got like I think three patch updates since that is better the game. So they're working, to their credit, they're working diligently and expeditiously to make sure these games are as tight as possible. Because right now, you will talk about that, but my experience is that I had none, and I know there were people who had some issues with certain things. It's crazy that some people had it and some people didn't. But some people, stumbled upon some issues and they immediately jumped on it before the actual initial full release that's happening right now. So as we're airing this right now, so I want to talk about the noticeable the changes in this game because, again, just to let people know that they have worked diligently on this game, and last year's game and this year's game has some similarities, but there's some definite changes. One of which I'll name. It's going to be a list. So one of it is controllable camera settings during the ringside entrances. I love this new feature, and it's not overwhelming that these changes happen. You hit a button and you get one angle, you get an out far away angle with the crowd, and then you can actually control as if you almost have like the drone camera that they have now. So I love that. It's awesome. And then you could go right back. So it adds a little bit of dimension and depth to it as well. Added features to the trading blows mini game. You're playing on what system? PS5 or
PS5.
So you got the dual sense controller. So you're feeling you feel the new adaptive feels to it and stuff.
Yep.
It feels great on the dual sense. And I'm using the PlayStation Portal, which also has the dual sense capabilities as well. It's so great. This decision branches are now something in My Rise, which we'll talk about when we get to that point. My Rise now has a new game plus mode. Thank you. Thank you. But I can't tell you how many times I played My Rise and I'm like, I want to play this again, but I don't want to start from scratch. It's no longer, they now have New Game Plus, and you can keep playing with your same characters, or you can create a new character and play it over and over again. And we're going to emphasize a little bit more on that too, because there's some funny things that goes on with that. Which allows you to replay some of the same campaigns over and over again. This mode now gives me the total WWE No Mercy experience because of that. The only thing that's different is that like you don't have a different story based on the title belt that you're going after, which I would love for them to do that again. That would be so awesome. So you have a different focus, on the title that you're chasing and stuff like that. They got a new user interface for the game that makes it easier to navigate into modes, easier and faster. Loading times, I felt that the loading times for me was a lot faster. How were they for you?
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the most noticeable things, which I was already impressed with last year's loading time.
Yeah. It seemed like it zipped right by even faster. It was very impressive. This was very interesting. One of the things that they had last year was the super finishers, which if you fill up your gauges like to all three, finisher gauges, you come up and do a super move that they can't get up from. Now you can assign more super finishers in your move sets now. So it used to be like, I think one or two or one you could do. Now I've been able to do like three or more or whatever like that, which is dope. So I like the fact that they have that on there. This is very interesting. And this was the part that I was hoping for. And we talked about this before too. There is absolutely no mention of Vince McMahon, Brock Lesnar, or even Jimmy Snuka in this game. In fact, there's a part in the the showcase mode where they cover Tamina, which, by the way, is probably my most irritating chapter in that showcase, mind you. But they talk about her career but never mentions her association with her father. I thought that was very interesting, incredibly interesting. Pinfall mini games now include rumble features from the DualSense controller as well. There's now a red gauge meter that pops up whenever you suffer injuries in a certain area around your body. You cannot get up until the ground, get up from the ground until the meter depletes or your opponent picks you up. I love that because it's a feature that they had last year, but you never knew how long it took for you to get up. Now they actually have a timer sort of meter that goes around, and you can see how long it's going to take for you to get up and all the stuff. So I really appreciate that they added that little bell and whistle to it. Move list now shows combos for away, neutral, and towards. So I thought that was pretty cool. This is just random, but the return of Armando Alejandro Estrada. There's so many ways that you could tell this is not the Vince McMahon era. That is one of them. They would have never let that. I don't think he would have ever let him in this game in this modern era.
There was another character that the Vince McMahon era is over.
Which one?
Well, he's not there yet, but New Jack, the addition of New Jack on the roster.
That absolutely. When I read that, I was like, okay, they actually.
Do you know the story behind that?
We all know this. I'm from Philly, bro.
No, but why he's in the game?
No, that I don't. What you got?
Nick Khan asked for him to be in the game because he is one of his favorite wrestlers.
Are you serious? Regardless of everything that his brother has done. Yo, that is
respect for Nick Khan.
Mad respect. Yo, what's up with the Khans? Seriously.
Right?
Both Khans, Tony and Nick, has some great ties and fandom to Philadelphia and ECW. It is amazing. That is, here's the thing though, and I can't wait till that DLC comes out. They're not going to add the song to it though. That's the problem. They're going to add them on there, which I think is, in my opinion, is absolutely awesome. I know there's a lot of controversy. I know people saw the Dark Side of the Rings episode and everything of them, but it just feels like it can't be New Jack without Natural Born Killers flaring in it. They really honestly could. They can afford to do this. They can afford to put that song in. If they had an edited version of that song that just continuously played through every time they come out, this will be the greatest 2K game of all time.
Right?
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, God, I'm always afraid because I remember when the WWE Network came out and they would, show ECW, and then Enter the Sandman, they didn't put that on, so they put this goofy, audio dub over it and all that stuff. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also scared of what song he's going to come out to as well. But it's weirdly awesome. I'm just going to say that to that. So, all right, new added customization features to the Creative Suite that includes the additional outer glow, drop shadow, and improve emboss settings. These are, for creative people like me, this is really awesome type of things that they added on to certain aspects. This is very Photoshoppy and photo imaging style of features that they added on here. That's just why another reason why I love playing this game, because as a creative, as a designer, they got a lot of creative tools that I can do. You've seen the stuff that I was able to do with this thing, and I almost break the damn game every year because I try to do so much in there, and they just keep making it so in depth, and I love it. It's just it always keeps my creative juices flowing with that. So I want to note that the ability to add texture options and the images have been taken out. I don't know why that's been done, but it is what it is. But it's a minor. It doesn't take away from anything. More new hair selections for your creative characters. Title belts fit much better all around the waist of wrestlers and your creative superstars now. New backstage arenas include WWE archives, which I absolutely love. I thought that was really awesome. And you get to break everything in the archives in there. Body damage and blood displays have increased significantly. Have you played this? to the point and see like how
the body, pain, the bruising and everything. Honestly,
the battle damage, the body damage.
Yeah, when you look at it as just a player who likes video games, cool. But when you think of it as an artist or as a programmer,
perspective,
that is impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only just that, I mean, like they so much attention to detail. It just makes it more real, and I love that. Women now bleed and show battle damage as well. Like, this is total equal opportunity, bro, in this thing. Weapons now show damage and wear and tear as well. New environmental attacks have been added. Super heavyweight wrestlers now have a new health gauge that prevents you from being dominating them quickly. So basically, you must wear out and deplete the extra layer of health gauge that you have in order to fully lift or slam them. Now, you've seen this with I think with Nia Jax in certain aspects where like you can't get with her till you wear her down completely. So that's pretty awesome. Title belt creation now allows you to make a title belt that could be won and defended by anyone. So like normally it's men or women or cruiserweights to that measure, but now it's just like anybody. So like this is pretty much Street Fighter at this point. So women can go up against men and defend the title against men in this world. This whole game to me reminds me of like a multiverse version of the WWE right now because of the stuff that you're able to do and the things that are happening right now. New match type bloodline rules is in. A new tournament match type mixed match challenge is in. Improved cage match controls. That to me I love because I love cage matches, as you know, and I think I love the cage matches last year, but it just didn't feel as smooth and fluid as it does this year. Like you're able to ram somebody's face into the cage easier than you did last year on this one. So did you is there anything that I missed out of this that you may have found?
No, honestly, overall I think you hit the nail on the head with everything. Yeah, from the new mini games to just overall more smoothness of certain match types. Really felt good, and some of the additions of like the bloodline or the bloodline match, or that one was really cool. But yeah, I think you named most of them, if not all.
I think one I didn't mention and I didn't notice until I saw it online, and I can't wait to see this in person. I when I found out that this is in the game, I turned it off because I want to see it for myself. Do you know Cody has his own special entrance that involves Triple H's throne?
Really?
Which is a direct thing from it was AEW Revolution that he did that, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, they actually put this in the game. And he takes the sledgehammer to the throne.
That's
in the
amazing.
Game. Honestly, we're going to talk about this, especially because we're going to go right into the story category and the mutiny storyline right now. There's a lot of references.
There are.
A lot of references in this game to the opposers, if you will. But have you played Mutiny?
Yep.
How many times did you play through it? Just once, or you just
once?
Did you
once.
I just now went back into it because I literally just cleared everything. So I went back and went through it. So I was able to get to do the other, selections and all that stuff, the other branch selections, which I'm going to suggest that you go back in because it's very entertaining, mind you. But the Mutiny this year is one. It's not two stories, it's one, but it's one that branches out into different situations and partially have different directions. But I believe the thing is, as right now, because I've only gone through two storylines, the two storylines are all meeting in the middle, but then they go a different direction. But then I think they all end up in the same ending. I haven't played through the third one yet to see if that was true, but there are different directions that provides different, story elements to it as well. But in hindsight, WWE 2K provides us with an invasion angle. And I was, dare say, a pretty good one, actually. It was a fairly good one. So this is an invasion angle that has your character enter the WWE as a new prospect that walks into a full-on assault from former and present rosters of NXT as they try to eradicate and erase history and existence of the WWE. What does it sound familiar to you?
This sounds a lot like the what's it called? Stu Bennett and all of them when
Yeah,
they
the
all
Nexus.
joined. The Nexus, that's it. Yeah.
Yes.
For some reason, I wanted to say the core, but I know that was much later. Remember that? Yeah, Nexus.
This was. I feel like this was the
combination.
Nexus done better.
That's exactly what it was. It felt like Nexus done better with a combination of some NWO elements,
Yes.
like Chad Patton joining them and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I mean, yeah, I enjoyed it because I feel like this was I don't know who's the writer of this and who's responsible for this particular story, but I feel like this is the way they wanted that Nexus storyline to go. And they wanted to get some redemption from that because it didn't go the way that they want to. But this one, I thought they did a really good job with this one. I also want to note that through the decision brackets system, it allows you to choose different paths. You could come in as an indie star, you could come in as a foreign wrestler, gaijin, you could come from the other promotion. You could be an MMA star athlete or whatever. So you choose to do that, and then also you will also create another character, and your bond with that character can be chosen like as a love. It's always going to be a female or a male version that you're going to create. So if you create a female, as far as I know, you're going to create the opposite gender from that, and it's going to be like you guys are love interests, your partners or your training partners or whatever like that, and they're building on the backstory of that alone. What was the other thing I wanted to say? I would also want to know this was because here's the thing, this game rewards you if you played previous WWE 2K games, and I'm talking about all of them leading back to maybe like 2018. The horrible 2018 and the horrible 2020. If you manage to play through those story modes, you kind of get rewarded because they all returning fictitious characters that they had, including one of my favorites, Chosen. I'm like, I'll tell you this: I cannot enjoy this game, the My Rise games, if Chosen's not on here, because the guy who plays that character is hilarious, and the way they make this guy, he's always funny as hell. For those who don't know, Chosen is a fictitious wrestler in the game story mode. That he's from Japan. He's a very arrogant, dude, and he's a master dude. It is he's kind of like a Vegeta type of like character in a lot of ways, or Bakugo from not Bakugo because he's a little bit too angry, but he's very arrogant. He's a very arrogant dude, but he also is like still a good guy at the same time to some extent. But he's always one of the most interesting characters that they have. But a lot of these characters are dating back from 2018, and they're all here coming back for the Mutiny storyline, which is great. They're also side missions now. Is really kind of no longer side missions. They're basically live event matches. So if you want to just level up your character, you do the side missions. But the good part about that is like you can not do the live event matches if you want. However, there is an incentive from doing the live event matches because you do earn and unlock some new things and all that stuff doing so. So it breaks away from you just going straight into the into the actual story, but you also earn something from there. Taking on and winning live matches will absolutely be beneficial to you to do so. You could choose, to play match types, and you can also you don't have to necessarily play the match that is presented to you. If you have enough, booking points or whatever, I forgot what they're called, but you can opt out of doing that match and switch to another match that you feel like that you can win or whatever like that. So it's also cool. Oh, I forgot to add too, during ladder matches, they got a whole new mini game system too. Yeah. And there, what did you think of that?
I thought it was okay. It was like, I liked it. It took some getting used to, but I did like it. Like it was, I think it was just because it was new. It was like, okay, what do I do now? And you have to think about it. I know it'll come second nature, muscle memory soon. But I liked it. Not to say.
And almost the bad part is, I just played the 2020 2K24 a couple weeks ago. It's a completely different, mini game. I totally forgot how to play the original minigame since, because it threw me off so much. So yeah, I agree. It's going to take some time, but I appreciate it. I don't like the new targeting system
No.
right now. That was one of my biggest pet peeves. I had to turn it off so I could do it manually, because if you're doing a multi match, then you're basically are going to go to people and go places you don't want to go. And I had that issue a lot of times. And I'm like, all right, let me get off of this and retweak my options, my features, and all the stuff and controls, and do it that way. So I wouldn't, unless they do a patch to that one, I would recommend people just do targeting manually, hitting that R button in there. So the new game plus, I want to talk about that real quick, because I finished through the first My Rise. But first of all, what did you think of My Rise period in terms of story?
Overall, I thought the story was great. There was a lot happening. I did enjoy it quite a bit. Actually, I enjoyed this year's My Rise more than last year, and that just who doesn't like a good invasion angle, right? Like, you and I, we've lived through how many invasion angles, including the invasion angle, and
the invasion angle, Ring of Honor, who did it better?
Yeah, right. I liked it. I liked it overall. I did like it overall. I like the fact that there is, and I know that this is kind of another category, but just having that replay value in My Rise is awesome.
With the new game plus,
which is smart, which is good. You need that. And someone like me, you know me, we've talked about this many times in the past. I'm very much a one and done. That's how I play video games, right? But I will go back and I will continue to unlock stuff because I did enjoy it. So yeah, I liked it. I liked that a lot, man.
So reason why I'm gonna give you a new game plus, recommend new game plus, or the time machine aspect. The time machine returns to 2K. We talked about references of things that were from previous 2 games. The freaking time machine is back, and that's not even from 2K. That's from SmackDown versus freaking Raw. So they went way back with this. Like in one of the chapters in My Rise, you will see Cody and R-Truth travel back in time to stop CM Punk's rise to fame. This is what I thought was so funny about this. There were 2 things. When I'm like, wait, you're going to stop his rise? That's not a good idea. in reality, if let's be real, if it wasn't for CM Punk doing what he did, a lot of y'all brothers wouldn't be getting in the positions y'all got to this day. Y'all trying to treat him like killing baby Hitler or whatever like that. No. Yo, you don't, that's not a good idea. And it turns out it wasn't a good idea anyway, because they believe stopping Punk will prevent the events of that led to mutiny.
Yeah.
Forming. And R-Truth is outstanding in this whole entire scene. His voice acting is really well done, and we'll talk about that too. His voice acting was really well done. His character was really well done. It's total truth. I can't wait till he gets into the Hall of Fame, because it'll be one of the most well-deserved Hall of Fame inductions in years. Like, this dude, what he's been able to do is hilarious. So, unfortunately for them, things go awry when the butterfly effect takes shape, leading them to more chaotic events in the WWE timeline. The 2 of them are looking to correct history and restore time to what it was before. So it becomes like a Brian and Stewie Griffin time traveling episode of Family Guy. And I say it is absolutely hilarious. So that's one of the good reasons to jump back in this. I want to also note too that the last time that they ever did a time travel angle was in fact WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2006. It wasn't even a PS2 version. It was the PSP version, which I honestly think I still have somewhere hidden in my closet over there. And like Undertaker used a time machine to, for players to go back in time and fix events that, to their destiny or whatever like that. So it was kind of similar to what they're doing right now with the new game plus feature of this. So it's insane. Then also, I believe 2K20 had that in the. This is one I didn't play because after playing it for a few minutes, I was like, I'm done with this crap. Same. But I believe that was I read that it had something similar to that in a Bump in the Night DLC as well.
Yeah, that's what I heard. But I didn't even touch 2K20 after the fiasco that was 19.
Basically what happened was I said I wasn't going to do it, but it was on a major sale. And I'm like, all right, 10 bucks. It was like 10 or 15 bucks. Let me just see how really crappy this is. I couldn't get through that My Rise mode. It was so atrocious. I think I got past to the part where the 2 kids were in high school or whatever like that. And and then all the bugs and glitches started happening with this thing. It was the 2020 and 2018, the Switch version absolutely was the worst of the 2K series. 2K18 on all their platforms were solid, but that one, oh man,
I don't know how they didn't call it back and just cancel the game from being sold. Like it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing how bad it was.
Well, at the time there was a rarity for that to happen. The Switch was like a year old at that point, and they thought they could do it, and I think they still could. I don't know what led to what they did with that. They had a third party company work on it, which is not a big deal because a lot of people use third party companies. Who was it? NetherRealm uses a third party company for Mortal Kombat as well. Yeah. Just different, and other WB games. Difference is, a lot of times these guys do it right. They get it done right. There are a lot of games on the Switch that are ported onto the Switch that are being played on other platforms, and they come out great. I mean, I just played Guilty Gear Strive on the Switch, and it's perfect. It is a perfect, port to that system. So I don't know how they did it. I just hope that with the Switch 2 coming out or being announced in about a month from now, that it has enough power to be able to have that experience on there finally. I don't understand. I get why it wouldn't. I just feel like the Switch needs a really good, solid wrestling game, and sadly, all they have right now is AEW Fight Forever, unfortunately, and Retro Mania Raw. I will shout out. Yeah, I will shout out Retromania. That actually, honestly, sadly, that's the better wrestling game. Yeah. In hindsight, overall. No, I shouldn't say sadly either. It's just, it's a retro 2D game that just plays really well. I still don't understand why Fire Pro isn't on there, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, that mode is so awesome. So I want to also note, because I got more to talk about. What do I have here? Can now add 4 more. Oh yeah, okay. So I'm jumping onto. I believe I'm jumping onto the universe mode. Did you get a chance to play that a little bit?
A little bit. I try. Yeah, I wanted to play everything enough.
Yeah.
So that we can have a good conversation. But yeah,
I know it. Yeah, I agree. I honestly, I played enough to know what I'm getting.
Yes.
But because it's, literally they say it's a sandbox. It's a sandbox of a lot of things that you could do. You could create everything. So I got enough to know like the new features, the promo system and all this stuff, how that works, which is great. I did like the fact that you can now create 4 more. You can now add 4 more shows to the actual deal. So like you could add in one day schedule, you could add 2 different shows in there now. As if you're competing like the Monday Night Wars in there. So I thought that was pretty cool that they added that on there. Creating a faction no longer restricts you from designated tag teams. I used to hate that because when I used to create my own characters and had a faction with them, you had to designate 2 people to be a tag team. So now they have it where it's like you don't have to do that anymore. You can make 4 tag team people come in, which is what I really wanted in a lot of ways. And it's pretty much Freebird rules at this point. So I thought that was pretty awesome that they broke away from that. A new danger detection, and we never talked about it either. Like the danger detection is awesome. When you're playing backstage brawls and stuff like that, you now know when you got this person, down and out. And once it hits that danger meter, you got one more time to hit them with a big blow before you can knock them out. So or if you are the person who is receiving the danger meter, you have to try to find a way not to get, knocked out in there. So that I thought was a fun feature in there too. So, in terms of like originality, in terms of what you think from other games, how original would you say? I mean, there's a lot of the same things here, but do you think all the changes in here really truly differentiated itself from, games past, or they brought back some things, they changed some things.
Yeah, so there's a few things that I really did like. So are we specific? What mode are we specifying right now?
Let's just say overall present. Overall.
Oh man, okay. So there's some stuff that I really did like. Something that always annoyed me in showcase mode was in the middle of the match having those cutscenes, the real life cutscenes. That fact that they're gone.
They're all 3D rendered now. They're all 3D rendered. I love that even more. I agree.
Now, what I loved even more about the showcase mode is the cutscenes with Paul Heyman hyping every match.
And how respectfully he does this whole thing too. It is absolutely incredible how he words things. I think one of my favorites was Tamina. Not Tamina. Yeah. I'm sorry, not Tamina. It was Naomi. Actually, because she wasn't an initial part of the actual showcase, and it just, he made her shine so well, and well deserved. I mean, especially after what we saw this past week in Philly when her and Bianca had that. You're never going to find a real promo that is the realest promo you're ever going to see. Those two, the conversation that they had was literally how I'm going to say it.
Families break.
That's how black women talk.
Yeah.
That is how black women talk. That's how black women get down. I've heard conversations with my sister and people, like, when they get into it, when an ish, that is how it was like, I'm sorry. Emmy nomination consideration goes to them. Whereas, like, what I love it because it's like you had Tony and Mariah, who's a little bit more soap opera in such a great way. It was soap opera. This one was like, man, this was real talk.
You know what was my favorite part about that? I know we're jumping. Was as Jade Cargill comes out and Bianca's like distressed, how Jade almost gets permission from Bianca to kick Naomi's ass.
She got the nod.
Yeah,
she got the nod. It's like,
exactly. Go ahead.
I will relate that segment to Kendrick Lamar's halftime show. Because it's one of those situations that, like, I mean, people enjoyed it. Majority of people enjoyed it. But it's one of those situations that, like, if you're not in the culture or around the culture, you need to understand the significance of how awesome that was. It was kind of on that. It reminded me of that kick from the jump. I loved it. So, no, I agree. Exactly. Like, she deserved that. I love how Paul Heyman, addressed it. And it reminded me of how awesome the women's division is and just how awesome she is as a performer and how serious she took this on day one. And, she left WWE. She went to TNA and still carried it on. She was a locker room leader. And, I mean, she got years on her. I mean, this is the year where we're seeing all these potential Hall of Fame performers. This is the next generation of Hall of Famers this year alone. The whole main roster right now is just like basically Hall of Famers. It's incredible. So, yeah, I agree. But in terms of, like, when you compare this to the other games, even SmackDown versus Raw, like, how original would you think this is?
Well, again, my GM, right, having the online feature was.
God, I forgot about that mode. I still haven't even jumped. I suck at that mode.
It's interesting. It's interesting. You turn anything online. It's
wait, talk about that real quick. How different is that compared to last year? Have you dabbled into that?
So it's essentially the same. The one thing that it's still really missing is you being able to predetermine the matches. That's the one thing that's really missing. Outside of that, it's pretty much the same as previous.
What is the key to actually getting good ratings?
Honestly, I still don't know.
I don't think it was funny. I think I asked you this last year too.
We had the same conversation last year.
I was hoping you did your homework and learned something. Damn it. I will say this year for you, we'll talk about that too, but wait, let's go to showcase mode because I want to capture on that. So I will say this because we talked about this before in terms of showcase mode. I loved it, but I'm slightly disappointed in it as well. You got to know why.
How come, my
My
friend?
whole intention for this damn mode, the minute that I saw this, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be my cliff notes to how the bloodline came to. Play through this thing, and I'm playing through this thing, and I'm playing through this thing, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm almost at the end. I'm playing through this thing. Oh man, this is not going good. I'm playing through this thing. I don't think I'm going to know how the bloodline even started.
Yep.
No, what it was basically, and I still appreciate it. It was giving flowers to the whole how do you pronounce it? Anuai?
Anuai.
Anuai, yeah, to the entire Anuai dynasty. And I appreciate that. They're giving them flowers for every single person who put their, to High Chief Peter Maivia and on to today's entire realm. And I appreciate it. But I damn sure wish that they would it would have shown, let us replay the events of the bloodline situation, because otherwise I got to go through the entire WWE, or Peacock channel at this time or whatever until they move it to YouTube and watch every single show that leads up to it, instead of just, which means I have to go through the fillers of this whole thing. So that to me, I was like hoping to like get to see how this whole entire saga formed without having to go through the fillers. Instead, it's like, okay, y'all just giving flowers, and all right, I appreciate it. It's just a little disappointed with that. But with that, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, in showcase mode, the one disappointing thing that I had was, did you notice? This might have just been me. This might have just been like kind of like the way my brain works. But the AI was a little odd at times. Like,
yes, I actually wrote that on my notes.
Oh, there we go.
The Tamina mode, especially
the Money in the Bank one. That one pissed me off.
That I was so well. For one thing, here's the thing: Tamina, they didn't give her grace in her moveset. You entered this wrestler in, and her only means of defense, her finishers, have to be top rope moves. That's not going to work in a Money in the Bank. She has no moveset that has allowed her to even win, so it made it harder. I had to go through that like 5 to 7 times in order to beat that mode. And I was like, yeah, they didn't do her justice at all. Like, this furthers her mediocrity within. So there was that. And then, of course, the targeting system was the key to that, the AI. And that's why I had to go from auto to manual, because you're trying to get to one place or another. And then your character is, it's going crazy trying to figure out what direction it needs to go, because it's pointing in everybody that gets close to you. So yep. Not turning it off, but switching it from auto to manual kind of helped that a bit, so you could target the person that you want properly. But I will say the other AI problem I had was in my Rise, because there was parts of that where it's a tag team match where certain people had to come out, and you're in the AI's tag team part, the AI wouldn't tag in the partner. So the match prolonged and almost felt like forever for me to get to that, to pull off that certain action in order to progress the story a bit. So yeah, hopefully, again, they did get patch updates. So hopefully there were 3 patch updates in the game. So hopefully that is resolved. I didn't look at the patch updates to see what they tweaked up and what they troubleshooted or whatnot, but it's pretty much there. But no, overall, I did like the some of the what if scenarios in the showcase as well. Yes. The what ifs in the scenarios I appreciate. I like that. So it was really paying homage to the entire legacy. I can't be entirely too mad about it with that situation. Any other things?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up one of these. So we talked about some of the new match types, the mini games, but there's one match type that I really had a lot of fun with, and I wanted to talk to you about, and that was the underground match.
I played it once. I'm looking forward to playing it again. You know what? When they showed the early version of that, there wasn't that many people around the ring.
Yeah.
By the time it reached us now, there was like a nice amount of mediocre people around the ring. It's like they just put fans around the ring on it. But I agree. I do like it. I do like the fact that, like, 1, it's no DQ. 2, you have to knock somebody out. So it brings a new element to the whole entire thing, especially for universe mode.
And the whole removing the ropes brings a whole new dynamic to the game engine that they
Yeah.
had to completely write. So I do
Yeah.
appreciate that. It was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the Street Fighter because I like to make a lot of martial arts characters anyway, so that plays into a lot of the things I'm going to do in universe mode as well. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I do like the way they put it together.
And then going back to the Bloodline Rules match, I love the fact that you get that the payback ability and you can call in people. So this one-on-one match turns into like, pandemonium.
Which is what we expect.
I love it, which is the funniest part because that's been the ongoing joke about the Bloodline is the run-ins.
Exactly. So let's switch on to a much anticipated other mode that we got a chance to play. Have you played The Island?
I have a lot of opinions about this. Let's get to this, my friend.
Let's get down to this. All right, so The Island is their new big, marquee feature here. It's a live service portion of the game that puts you in an online environment where you play through multiple matches in quest to earn what is called virtual currency, basically, to exclusive creative superstar gear. Completing quests will reward you with cosmetic gear and virtual currency pending the quest. Now, here's a new development that came to me because I don't know if have you played the My Faction mode yet?
Yeah, very little.
Okay, but you got the unlockables.
Yeah.
Okay, because that actually helped me with the island situation.
Yeah.
And because I don't play My Faction at all. I know what it is. I know what they're trying to do. And the island is the same thing. But there is they do have an option, much like My Faction, to buy in-game currency using real money. Which is one of my biggest pet peeves about modern games today. The in-app purchase or in-game currency thing. It irks me, but it's not necessarily you don't have to. And I will give them credit. You necessarily don't have to go, and they do provide you with enough currency to get some things in there. So that was my key. Well, trust me, I'm going to get to the point because we already talked about it. Now, let's go down the range. $4.99 real money gets you 32,000 virtual currency, and it goes as high as still to this day can't understand this. $99.99 for 400,000 currency. I actually went on Threads. I've actually stopped going on Instagram because I'm just, there's some things I am so tired of Instagram right now. So I'm kind of fleeing off it, but I'm finding some good community on Threads. I asked for Threads, and this was going to be an interesting question. I'm like, who's going to be brave enough to speak out on this? I've asked people on Threads as to whether they have actually spent that much money on a game. Not just this game, on like Genshin Impact or all those other live service games that looks extremely gorgeous, but they trap you. Stuff like that. I got one or two people that actually admitted that they have spent money. And, during the beginning, the beginning era of the mobile game era, with Smurfs Village and all the stuff, it was new. It was fresh. It was new before Capcom got sued because kids were just, buying up like hundreds of thousands of dollars of Smurf berries and all that stuff in there. People have admitted, but I knew there was going to be a lot of people who don't admit it because one, they do it blindly and don't do the math. And you wind up you spending so much money on like one game and you're like, what the hell happened? You could have bought yourself like a whole bunch of games and a game system for the amount of money that you're spending on one game. This is no more proof than when 2020 came and Marvel's Avengers came out and people found out that all of the cosmetic content that they had in there that you could buy adds up to $3,300 of content. That's before they actually screwed up the whole entire game and then decided to just give everybody the free gear. And then they just shut the whole thing down completely. I don't understand. What's sad about this, Boris, is that they make billions off of these games. you see how much you could go on. I don't know if you could go to Chat GPT or you could go look up on Google. You can get and figure of how much these developers are getting paid because people, not just in the United States or not just Canada, from Asia, parts of Asia that are spending this money on these games and not really. Now, granted, you can argue that this is like a new way of doing arcade, but like, look, a quarter versus $4.99 is a total different thing. This is just, it's crazy.
Don't even get me started on this. Yeah. Like we can make a whole episode talking about this stuff. The game that hurt my heart when it came to in-game currency was Battlefront 2. Remember that?
Oh, yes. Star Wars Battlefront?
Yep.
Yeah, I heard a lot about that game.
I never played it until everything was free. But I avoid games when I know the trap is there. Not only that,
same here. Remember Suicide Squad killed the Justice League? I was like, I'm not. No, I have it now, but I got it when it was $20.
I got it,
and then hold on. I didn't even wait. I waited until they actually gave us the offline mode they promised us, because I don't want to play online. So they finally did that, and they shut the game down. So it's like, all right, bet now I will play this game the way it should have been intended. They came out knowing that that Crystal Dynamics screwed up with Marvel Avengers, and you're going to try to do the same thing, and even worse by making the complete game online reliant. No, I'm good. Yeah, I stay far away. I'm like, I tell people all the time, I'm like, you got to think consumer first and fan second. You have to, because you can't let your fandom take over and overshadow the idea of not using critical thinking, and you end up paying so much money for your fandom that you shouldn't have to pay.
Agreed. So 100%. But here's the thing, man, and this makes us sound like old men yelling at clouds.
Hey, I'll claim my grown folk gamer.
Same here.
I'm a grown folk gamer.
Dude, there are games I won't play anymore because it's for the youngins or whatever, right? This is the future, right? Live in-game service or live service games and in-game currency, and the combination of that is the future, unfortunately, because these companies have to show year-round revenue.
Yeah, that is the future by fault.
Yes.
You know, that is
could have stopped this years ago as a consumer. But we didn't.
We could have stopped a lot of things that were going on, but because we live in a short attention society, and with the fact that we don't remember the past, what is the old saying?
The whole
those
history.
Who forget the past.
Yeah.
Those who forget the past is doomed to repeat it, and look what's happening right now. We're constantly making that mistake.
What are we talking about? Video games or life?
They kind of intertwining right now, bro.
Right. By the way, my appearance is going to cost you 20% more.
It's part of the game now. So what are you doing?
Love it.
You know, furthermore though, I will give them credit because I'm like, you do got to grind majorly, because like each currency, like they for each match that you play in my island and in the island, it's like you get through one match. I think you get like an indie, what is probably the equivalent of an indie wrestling payment. Like, so you get like 150 virtual credit currency in here, which is like, that's like $40 in real life for an indie wrestler with no insurance. But then if you complete a quest, you get a little bit more. Plus you do get some unlockable stuff. And then if you did get the early bundle, they do provide you with a lot of money to actually get some great stuff. So once I found that, I was like, okay, they're not completely trying to grip your money, your pockets like that. So I will give them credit for how that's done. My only biggest pet peeve, and I showed you this before, they got some really awesome cosmetic gear. They got some really, like the mask that they got in there. They got some great suits, all this. And I'm thinking like, all right, this is going to be great for when I use it for my creative characters on outside of the universe mode and all this stuff. I found out that that's not going to happen because everything is in that mode. You cannot take it out. I'm like, all right, I'm done with this. They got the optic, the masks, the suits, all that stuff are a little bit more cooler than some of the stuff that they already give from year one.
Yeah. So. And you know what? Here's the thing. I feel like this is a work in progress, and I know that they are going to be making updates throughout the year. 2K has already indicated as much. I can see this being changed in the middle of the year.
Well, it's that, or this is there, because I think they did this prior years.
They're testing.
Remember well, we're going to go back to 2020. They had those bundles that they had. Remember the story bundles, and they had gear themselves. So when 2021 and 2022 came, all that gear from those bundles ended up being available to use in the actual game and in all the other modes. So you can use it. I think I could be wrong, but I predict that a lot of the content that we see from this island mode for 2026 may be available to use in regular modes. It's possible. And then that will leave room for them to design new gear for them to add on there.
You know, replay value in terms of play this year's games, MFers, because next year you'll be kind of given the award for playing this year's game.
I can totally see them trying to do that, and it will. That's the way they can prolong this situation. Yeah. I don't like it, but I see the gimmick.
We know the game. We know wrestling. We've been around wrestling long enough, and video games. What I do like about this mode, as cheesy as some of the writing is in this stuff, cheesy as the overall mode is, as a wrestling fan, we live for cheesy things. I'm sorry. Like, wrestling is supposed to be cheesy at times.
Yeah.
I loved, like, you know, just having the Undertaker, the Haunted Church, having the Aztec Pyramid. Dude,
it's Universal Studios, bro.
Exactly. Bloodline SmackDown set, you know?
Shit
like that.
I think they're going to add, I definitely think they're going to add more to it. I think there's going to be more shops. There's going to have, I like the fact that Nike and Jordan is in there now.
Yes.
I thought that was like, yo, let's really talk. They got a lot of brands in here, which is, again, something we barely seen from the Vince era of things. This is another one of those big changes, too. Oh, this is a question I need to ask you. We need to go back to showcase mode real quick. My notes are everywhere. But are you surprised Naomi got a chapter, but not Soul Man Rocky Johnson?
I can tell you why Rocky Johnson didn't really get.
Let's do that. I figured you would have an answer for that. What's the deal with that?
So I'm not saying that he's being erased a la Vince McMahon or someone like that, but there are things about Rocky Johnson coming out and how many children he fathered outside of wedlock in Canada. I can.
This is the part of Young Rock I didn't see. It's the episode I missed.
That's the episode. That's the lost episode. So I can see them being a little iffy on that. To be 100% honest, I can send you a Slam article written by the great Greg Oliver, who this is an exclusive from him, and it got picked up by some pretty reputable places. And this is something that the NOI family won't talk about.
Right. He that dude. Rolling Stone Rocky Johnson. Ain't that a mug?
Right?
Ain't that a mug?
Right?
Well, it is what it is. God bless. So, what did you think in terms of universe mode? In terms of universe mode, this year's universe mode had some new and returning features by popular demand, one of which was the promo mini game, which I've loved. I loved and didn't love. I love the concept or the idea of them bringing in the promo mode. The execution of the last time they did the promo mode was not to my liking. What did you think of this year's promo mode?
It was an improvement, but it's still a mode that I can live without.
Interesting. I feel like what I loved about it is that they didn't add a timer to it. That was one of the best. It's one of the worst things I hated about it, because they would put pressure on you to try to get out a word from people, and it was like, if you come out with the wrong word, your promo is going to suck. The crowd is going to crap on you, and it's like you got 30 or 15 seconds to say it, and you got to read through the text to learn what the hell to say. And then it sometimes didn't make sense to what you said. This time around, there's no timer. So you can take your time to read the actual responses that you want to give or the actions that you want to give. And I think the only thing I don't like or haven't given to yet, it just feels limited at the moment. Because you get 4 selections, one of which is like you schedule a match for the prior week, for the next week, or you fight right now, or you have 2 other options right now. So I haven't seen a promo mode. I played through a few of them, and it's usually the same thing. I haven't seen them actually where they go from there, but I like the fact that it's back. I just needed to be. I would like to see it more improved, but I'm glad that they at least put the timer factor out of it, because I think people liked it, but they didn't like the timer, because it's like you don't have enough time to read all 4 selections and to know which one is a good response to come back to. You know, I even cheated back in the day. I used to go on like game facts to see like what's the best one, because I can't read what the hell it is. It's like it's not giving me enough time to read through all this. So I do like that. Everything else virtually seems to be the same, except that, like I said before, you could add more shows to one day and schedule to that matter. I haven't really gotten down and customize it as deeply as I want to yet. But again, when we grade these things, this is the grade that we're giving at the first step. Our grades can change as the time goes by because of how they tweak this up. So, but I love Universe Mode is my most played game out of the played part of the whole entire game. I did bring back some of the customization titles that I had, so that was great. The customizations for that is really smooth and stellar as it always has been. So I'm at least happy with that. As far as we talked about replay value a little bit, but like in terms of, do you get your like your yearly insight data from video games?
Yeah.
As far as WWE 2K is concerned, are they your most played games throughout the year, or what is your actually play game?
By far, it's WWE. I'm a big fan, and I've talked about this every year, and especially with fighting games. For me, I pick up a controller, play a couple games, put it down. Sometimes I don't have the time to invest the 3 hours in a mega mission in Final Fantasy or Legend of Zelda or whatever, right? Like, and so for me, having a game that I can just pick up, play a couple matches, put it down, not feel too bad that I wasted time, quote unquote, or invested my time differently, so I do end up playing WWE a lot more than most other games. And I don't play FIFA anymore, or whatever the heck they want to call it now. I don't play a lot of those games that I used to. So typically WWE is my go-to sports game now.
Yeah. Yeah, even if I denied it, I couldn't deny it, because the inside data would tell you, like, it has been my most played game on the PlayStation 5. I was amazed at how I shouldn't be, but I was amazed at how many hours I put into that shocked. Last year's game. It was insane. It was crazy. I saw my Switch data, and I think AEW Fight Forever, regardless of how much I spent playing other games, that was still my most played game. I was like, wow. As much as I tried to protect the game and said about the game, turns out I was still playing that game a lot more than other ones, even though I enjoyed other games a lot more.
It happens, man. It happens.
Tells you how much of a wrestler fan I am.
That's what it comes down to, honestly. I think the combination of wrestling and video games is perfect for people like us, for geeks like us, right? Like it's
well, not only just that too. For me, I think the creative ability that it lets you do to just do whatever you want. It's not just like it's every year it becomes less and less restrictive.
Yes. And
I feel like that that's for me as a creative person, as a designer, I get to do things that I love doing. I'm a comic book fan like you are. I love creating the comic book look. I always like to create my characters in the form of Jim Lee characters in the game. So I get to do that. And it looks pretty awesome. And the move sets and the things that you get to do and the clothes that you get to wear, you literally can, you can make an abomination of a character to a heroic looking character in this game. And it's virtually unlimited, especially when you compare the creative suites to other creative suites. Like, I will give 2K credit, or even 2K or Yuke's credit. wrestling games, they have helped make wrestling games some of the best creative games in totality, where you could just feel like you could do everything and anything. It all stems from the Ukes era. And without that, like, we wouldn't have these games to this day, or other games that now started doing creative features, because it was wrestling that was started doing. We could go back to the old school WWE Raw game from Acclaim, which I believe really did have the first creative suite in there. It was very limited. It was crappy as hell, but it gave you an idea of, it was a template and a blueprint to what we have today. So that alone is just there. And then all the modes, maybe we won't be playing the island, but we will be playing My GM. We will be playing Showcase. We will be able to play universe mode. We will be able to play normal stuff. Like, there's so many things. If you don't like that one thing, you could totally play things. If you don't like to play the online My Factions or stuff like that, you could just totally play the My Rise or whatever. It's like you have your own world to make it in your own stuff. And I love that. They don't restrict you. Like, not everybody has to do the same things. And it's like you're playing your own, your way in your own world at any time. So,
and I've seen some amazing things happen. Like, if on the Facebook communities for 2K, whatever year, right? What people do with these games is just, it's amazing. It's amazing and unreal to see how they extend these games for themselves.
I haven't even I've yet to go into the image, gallery yet. I have yet. Because I was just trying to, scale out everything that's in the game. Now that we're doing this, and now that we're doing this review, and once this review is over, I'm going to go so deep and see who uploaded what in these games, and upload my stuff in, back in as well. And, it's, what's so great? What's so crazy? Because every year when I did buy these games, it was during the Vince era, and I was totally not feeling the brand at the time. That's part of the reason why I started creating my own, worlds, and creating my own logos and all this stuff, and doing my own thing. So I wouldn't factor my stuff. This year, I feel like I actually do want to interact my characters to the WWE world, because how much of a great change that Triple H and Nick Khan has done with this company. I feel like more celebratory towards this company now with that. I really appreciate what they have done with this game. Oh, we got to jump back real quick to My Rise, because we didn't talk about this, but we need to talk about this, because in My Rise, there were underlying statements that were being made, and I'm pretty sure you probably caught them. They were mentions of the other promotions. There were mentions of, tell me this. When you look at not just the invasion angle, there was a reason for the invasion angle. The invasion angle was their way of saying they were tired of the way things were being, and they wanted to make a change. And all through, if you look at the game, all through the game, I'll even put up clips on that, but they were all through the game. There was like some meta messaging in there where they were saying things are not what it used to be.
Oh, he must have some major news to share.
Well, let's hear what the game has to say.
As you all know, we've been building a new era in WWE, a direction that's bolder than anything you've ever seen before. But to forge this path, we need talent who can rise to the occasion. Whether that's someone who's already here, or an outsider ready to step in and lead the charge.
Just a friendly piece of advice. Make sure you look good up there on that stage.
What are you getting at?
I know in the past you had to wear whatever the office told you to for your non-ring attire, and sometimes you'd even have to wear the same ugly shirt for years on end. But things are different now. Like Hunter said, it's a new era with fewer restrictions.
But then we'll have to have a real conversation.
A real conversation about what?
About the issues that led to all this. Punk and Mutiny were just a symptom of problems that we really have. Problems that aren't going to go away with Punk and my former partner.
I know. And I'm going to insist on a thorough review of all our policies and practices after WrestleMania.
We don't need a review. We need change. And I'm going to bring it.
This is a whole new different way. We're doing things I like the way things are now. And even by the end, it was like, I felt like it was it was like them imprinting the idea that this is no longer the Vince McMahon era. This is a whole new era. We're doing the things. I even heard the words equal opportunity
100%.
get in here.
100%.
They also mentioned the other promotion. So they're acknowledging without acknowledging AEW in this game. And again, we talked about the Cody entrance too. So, they're a little bit more leeway, but this was a clear meta message to me in saying this is no longer the Vince McMahon era. It's cloaked in the invasion angle, but the reason behind it, the invasion angle, and why, the significance of CM Punk in this story, it all plays in.
Of all the wrestlers, it had to be CM Punk, right?
It had to be CM Punk, and it by the end of it, it's all an imprint. It's all a meta message to say like, this is no longer the Vince McMahon era. This is a whole new era. We're doing things. It didn't. I will kind of spoil it a little bit of this. There's a conversation that your character will have with Triple H or one of the managers. I think Nick Aldis or whatever like that. And they're saying like changes need to be made here. We need to make changes. And they give you options on how you could make those changes, how the company can make these changes to the company to make sure everybody is, feels that they're getting equal, opportunity. And it's like, I can't be the only one that noticed this, that this is them telling us, this is a continuation of them saying like, this is no longer that man's, company. But this is a company that's going to do the total opposite of everything that has ever been done.
This is what you need, right? It's not only the on-screen product that you see, is marketing throughout every single aspect of WWE, where they need to send a clear message saying, this ain't your Poppy's WWE anymore, right? Like this is the new house. This is someone else's house.
Absolutely. And I appreciated that. It was just more confirmation. And it's been continuous. I feel like they didn't realize that it's going to be a while. They're going to have to do this for quite a while to assure us that like all the stuff because it's years of cleanup that they have to do. Literally. Years of cleanup that they have to do in order to, it's major damage. Years of major damage to that measure. So I appreciate, I think that's one of the most appreciative things I loved about the My Rise story campaign this year was, in fact, and we should have talked about that a little bit more, but this is indeed a whole new world, and we're constantly seeing it, not just from the game, but just the way that the show is being produced, booked, how the cameras are viewing it. They got drone cameras now. It's just so many things. Yeah. Kudos to all of them because they're doing everything. They're doing their best. In terms of making that happen. Before I do that, we didn't talk about visuals.
No.
In terms of visual presentation and performance, both the character models and the ambiance. I will say this: as far as arenas, could this be the largest amount of arenas that they had? Because they not only have every single arena from 2024 in here, they got some old school classic arenas in here. They got some fictitious arenas in here. One of my favorite arenas is the indie arena. I don't know if I don't know if you got to that part yet of My Rise, but another reason, because you're still unlocking things when you play through My Rise. There is an indie arena that looks like what was the event? The event Superstar. What is this? Supercade or what is the event that Conrad puts together every year when AEW comes out? Is it Supercard or Supercade or whatever, something like that? Starcast or something. Yeah, I think it's Starcast. So basically, this arena is an indie arena, but they got merch stations all around the arena, and then they got the ring and everything. And at some point, you'll end up with Trish Stratus and DDP in there because they're at these indie events selling their merch and signing autographs. It is one of my favorites because it's so authentic. It is absolutely freaking awesome. It actually looks like the Supercat. I know during WrestleMania last year they had an event at a hotel near the Pennsylvania Convention Center last year. That was really huge, and it almost looks like that that hotel arena. It's worth going to just to unlock that arena. It looks. I'm like, this looks like the authentic indie arena type of experience. You go in, there's a merch station with your favorite, legendary superstar, and it's like, what's the other thing that's so different about this generation? Why this would never be seen prior years. I mean, they started doing that in prior 2K games, but I feel like they're being more evident, more transparent about the wrestling experience now. Is that like, yeah, there's people on certain levels and certain, stratifications, if you will. I feel like it's getting more and more transparent. They like, yeah, you could be a wrestler, you could be famous, you could be like rock rich, but you got to get to this level. So I like the fact that they're really being transparent about the true experience there. But we got all of these, here, and then also the character models. What did you think this year in terms of the presentation of the arenas? What was your favorite arena? And then what did you think of the character models itself? Was it hit or miss?
My favorite arena was the WrestleMania one, like just because it had the most detail out of all of them.
All right, you got to be specific. There are plenty of WrestleMania.
Okay, the 40, WrestleMania 40.
That's here in Philly. Yeah.
I thought that it was so well done. Something that like you really have to take into consideration is just the amount of colors, the amount of shades, the amount of depth, the amount of so much detail that has to be thought of that goes into making everything look good, like making everything look solid, smooth, render properly. Even the fans look better than they typically do, and I feel like even their interaction, the way that they move, looks good. I honestly am impressed with the character models and the overall look and feel of this game. Overall, they did a fantastic job. It's an improvement from last year, which it should be, because like I mentioned earlier, like the developers and everyone understands your limitations with this next gen console, and it's obvious. It's so obvious, and it's so nice. And like we talked about earlier, just the body bruising and things like that, and the body damage, like it just honestly so good. They did such a good job. I know we'll talk to this when we talk about the scores, but I'm very curious to see where they can improve next year, and I know they will.
Absolutely. Here's a question. There's two arenas that I in my heart of hearts, I kind of figured that they're gonna do this eventually, but they have added these in, and I've heard nobody talk about it yet, but the Saudi Arabia arenas are in there now. It is what it is. Your thoughts on that?
It is what it is. Say what you want about them. At the end of the day, it's part of the WWE universe.
Yeah, I mean, all right. Let me talk a little political. Let me get a little political right now. We're saying this and taking a little bit of more optimistic perspective in this. The ways of the leaders of these countries should not affect that of the people of those countries. As a person in the United States right now, who is badly bullying your country right now, and his views, his actions does not reflect that of the people in this country. And I think your prime minister understands that, which I appreciate that immensely. I think everybody knows that, like, a lot of us don't advocate to what this man is doing. In hindsight of that, the people of Saudi Arabia, they're governed under one. They have to go to these events. Luckily, these events are entertaining enough for them to go to. But I'm sure, under different situations, they probably would have want to live a different life. And I've heard Saudi Arabia is trying to do better, but they're also still complex in certain ways. It's hard to want to normalize this, all of this. It's very hard to want to normalize this, but we also have to try to live together.
You don't get to choose where you were born.
There you go. That's a very good way of putting it. So, but you could choose where to move. Well,
sure extent.
that's also questionable depending on where you live.
Exactly.
Again, in the case of Saudi Arabia, we don't know.
we don't know too much, but like, yeah, you know, those North Koreans are.
Yeah, I mean, so we can't damn a whole country for the actions of one.
No, exactly.
And it's one of those complex situations. It's like I hate, we obviously I'm not going to go into why people are against the country or the person behind the country, but we also got to know that within every country there's a group of innocent people who just want to enjoy things in life, and we got to grant them that. It is like you said, just like you said. So I just hate. I'm not a big fan of having to normalize, especially when things aren't resolved in said situations. But it is what it is. I mean, boxing is also, the Undisputed game also has the logo in there as well, and it just scares me how this is going. And it's like, all right, we're working with other people, but nothing is being completely resolved. We'll see how this goes, but it is what it is. I mean, these guys I guess that country is playing this game as well.
Yep.
You know what's crazy? If that's the case, that's interesting. No, are they playing this game? Because
I didn't even think about that. Maybe some people are allowed to, I'm sure.
No, or some people are pirating there. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. But here's the thing. The game has a restriction that they're not allowed to have. So in order for them to play that game, they have to go against that restriction.
The women.
That restriction is the clothing that the women are wearing. Now, granted, in the showcase mode, they do have them everybody wearing the, the full gear. All the women wearing a full gear. But that's not the majority of the game. The majority of the game, you got the female wrestlers wearing everything on there. So are they allowed to play that game? That's a good question.
Great question, actually.
I gotta find out. I gotta go and research that to see if they are actually selling this game in Saudi Arabia. Because if they are, and they're letting letting gamers play that game in Saudi Arabia, isn't that kind of a contradiction? In a lot of ways, when you have all the girls are like what they consider scantily clad in the game.
Exactly.
Oh, I don't know. It's very interesting.
It is. It is.
I never thought about that until now.
Based on an article from the Times of India. Again, don't know how legit this is just yet. WWE 2K25 release date, US, UK, India, Australia, Saudi Arabia, timings, and more. Which is very
interesting.
This is very interesting conversation right now, right? When you think about the dynamics of how they view women and what women are allowed to wear.
I wonder if they don't realize this or overlook this. It's weird. I would love to see how it's played in Saudi Arabia. I wonder if they just, restrict any of the gear that they have in it. Because you remember some people in the game, Naomi, Bailey,
the ones who
Nia Jax is always fully, geared.
The ones who wrestled out there.
Yeah. That's an interesting one. That's something we're going to keep an eye on for real. What do you think of the soundtrack this year?
The soundtrack overall, I liked it actually. It's
okay.
Overall,
like I'm talking about the special. I'm talking about the special guest jukebox. Because this year we had Fuel by Eminem and JID. We had Suffocate by Knock Loose and Poppy.
Better than Post Malone stuff last year.
I don't know. There was one or two Post Malone songs I did like, and it was
I did really like. I forget which one it was.
Right. There was some, but the rest of them was kind of throwaways. Every year I keep saying, because the one year that they did this, I was like, I want this on every single time. That was I think that was 2023 had to be when they had Wu-Tang Clan's Protection. And then on top of that, you could use that to enter the ring. I was like, I need this on every single year. Okay.
Completely
that was my favorite
conversation. I just bought my tickets to see Wu-Tang in June.
You know what? I'm pissed off. I missed out on buying my because the very last show is here in Philly.
Oh damn!
And I missed out because I was like, Oh my! I was when I thought about it, I went to check and see how many tickets are left, and I wanted to get some front rows. Completely. The only tickets that they had left were like they were lottery.
Yeah.
You had to be in queue in order. I'm like, hey, there's no way in hell I'm getting it. This is New York Comic Con all over again. I'm not getting it.
Exactly. So yeah, Wu-Tang and Run the Jewels in June, and then in May.
That's the part that really pisses me off because Run the Jewels is opening. Like,
I saw Run the Jewels open for Rage Against the Machine here once.
Dude, Killer Mike is the truth.
So good.
He is this year's Chuck D. He's this generation's Chuck D. Without question.
In May, I'm seeing Cypress Hill, Far Side.
Stop. You got my whole playlist, my 90s playlist.
Dude, yeah. And it's oh my God, what's their name?
Yeah, I dropped the ball heavily on that Woo.
And De La Soul.
Damn.
It's Cypress, Far Side, and De La Soul.
Damn. You know what's so sad about the De La Soul is only going to be 2 and not 3. That's
to me.
That's
yeah.
Oh, the stakes is high on that one.
I know.
But yeah, I thought it was okay too. There was some I think I'm with this year's soundtrack the same way as I was last year. There were some hit or misses for me. I think the Jelly Roll one I did like, and the Rat-a-Tat one I did like, and the Fuel one I did like. But otherwise, the other one was just throwaways for me.
I was expecting more. I don't know. For me, the video game soundtracks mean like it's so much. I know you can create your own soundtrack and blah 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 blah. But I always found that the soundtrack that's in the game should be top notch, right? Like people always talk about the FIFA soundtracks.
I mean, here's the thing: they've been associated with Meek Mill. They've been associated with Travis Scott. I mean, what is going on? Like hell, like with. Mega Ran is around here somewhere.
Nicki Minaj has a
Nicki Minaj
theme?
Meg the Stallion. You know what I'm saying? Like, add all those cats to the deal. Like, come on. Like, and you know what's even another reason why I'm going to have to get the other damn game next year? Because the damn New Days soundtrack is going to be on there with Mega Ran on it. And I'm like, you know what's funny? I reached out to him when I first heard that, and I texted him. I was like, 1, how does it feel to have the song out? 2, how did you feel having Pat McAfee say that he backed out to it? Yeah. Pat McAfee for like 2 or 3 weeks when the New Day came out with the new song, he was like, yo, this is a banger. I'm like, that's surreal. Yeah. That's so surreal.
Pat McAfee.
Pat McAfee. He's a McAfee.
What you see is what you get with that guy. When I heard back
which is great.
Which is Chamber. Woo.
He, you know, another reason why the Vince era is. That would be a crazy show. Just list off reasons why you know Vince McMahon is not in the WWE anymore.
That Xavier Josiah is watching. Let's start that.
That is the number 1 of all time. And number 1, and clearly.
Yeah, like, and you know, I have friends. I've like some of your listeners now. You know, same deal. Now they're watching again.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to go cryptic. I'm not going to go cryptic on what I was about to say. Let's just say, at this time, even without him being around, it feels like a dark cloud has been lifted.
Yeah,
and that's as far as I'll go with.
It's true, 100%, man.
But when all is said and done, it's really gonna feel like a cloud is lifted and the sun is shining. Yeah, I mean that's what it feels like for that company right now. And this shows. Talk about gameplay. What did you think about this year's gameplay, the controls and everything? There's some, we talked about some of the new kicks in there. Like overall, what are your thoughts?
I liked it. Seemed smoother. I don't know why. Is it just
no? It really does.
Did I work in my controller more, or is it more receptive? That was like
I think it's both. I think the DualSense controller, it feels like they really understand the DualSense controller this time around. Mm-hmm. Because it's now reacting. like it does with other games. They know how to, make it feel. It grips strongly when certain times it rumbles in more areas now of the of your gameplay. One of the things that I think they did improve on personally, when they carry you around, when you get carried around and you got to try to break free, it does it faster now. Because I remember last in 2K24, every time you get caught and they're dragging you to try to put you next to the ropes or put you in a corner, and you got to try to button mash out of there, you never get a chance to break out of that because the meter that the gauge that's supposed to expand out and you got to hit the O button, it never makes it in time for you to break out. Now it goes out much faster. So they did improve on that.
That bothered me a lot last year. The other thing that I noticed is that, again, even the timing of reversals and things like that, while it is still a science, it adds to the replay factor where you're not gonna become a virtuoso on it, right? Like you will, but it's gonna take a little more time, and that's something I do appreciate. So I think that overall they made the right improvements to the gameplay overall. Like we already talked about some of the mini games. The AI is still a little off, but again, it's not gonna be perfect.
How are you with the chain? With the new chain, with the return of the chain wrestling system?
I like that.
Yeah,
I did enjoy it.
I got to get used to that. That's another one I got to get used to as well. It's just like the original way of the original chain system. They did do a little bit different things to that mini game. And that's probably because I didn't read I just went through the directions, didn't read the directions on how to do it perfectly. But I like it. I absolutely like it. I'm glad they brought it back along with promo mode. I don't know why they took it out in the first place. But again, chain wrestling was never something that, the McMahon era ever liked anyway. This era is a little bit more scientific. So I appreciate that as well. And I also will say, again, this game really truly feels more like an Aki Engine game than it ever did before. That's the thing that is crazy about this whole experience. It's like they out Aki'd Aki or the man behind Aki. That part is the part that amazes me. The only thing that bothered me again is the AI factor. And the patches that they just did could have changed that or made, and they're going to be patching the hell out of this thing down the line. So it's going to get better from this point.
Remember, Dax, and this is something that does bother me about the video game industry now, and I do want to bring it up. Want to get your thoughts on this, and that is, we paid extra to be beta testers.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. After a while, you do start to pick up on it. But it's kind of like you do that, you take the risk, you do that. In a lot of ways, they do kind of give you incentives for doing it.
Of course.
So it's not completely out of the loop, but at least I could speak for 2K that they, to their credit, we do that, but they give us incentives for it, and to their credit, they immediately speed up on the patches. Great. Like I said, three major patches that were like a gig each or whatever like that in a short amount of time means that they are on the ball with it. They're working they're working more expeditiously this year than I've ever seen them do in prior years.
Because if you notice, like the last few years, you've had 3 days pre-play.
Yeah,
this has been a whole week.
A whole week. Yeah,
a whole window of us being able to play the game before it's fully out tomorrow or on the 14th, I should say.
Yeah. Or as we're speaking right now, everybody's getting a chance to play it, right?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. I hate saying the exact date on anyways, but yeah,
it is what it is. But
there's a small part of me that feels like an idiot for paying to be a beta tester, but at the same time, like you said, they do incentivize you a little bit. And
as a consumer, you should be. As a reviewer, you shouldn't.
That's yes, stole the words right out of my mouth, my friend. Thank you. That's exactly it. As someone who has who does reviews mostly with you for 2K, I'm cool with paying that because we get to get our content out before the majority of people are playing the game.
Absolutely. And we're able to do stuff with it once we do it. It's not just like we're going to just complain online. We're actually showing people, what's what and whatever to the game. So, I mean, I don't mind it completely, especially when I know that a company, and it does speak about 2K games that I am doing this every year. Because if I didn't have confidence in them being able to troubleshoot the issue, we wouldn't be here doing this show right now.
Yep.
And they have come a very long way. Remember, 2018 was a long time ago, and God, it is. Yeah.
Give 2K credit for what they did, releasing 2K20 to whatever that was.
No. You gotta go back to 18. You gotta go back to 18.
Yeah, but I say from 20 as in like the end of the old era, and then taking a year off, and then starting to release things, in this new engine. And what they've done in 3 years, 4 years?
Incredible.
It's quite amazing.
Incredible. I love stories like that, honestly. I mean, CD Projekt Red is another one that I've favored amazingly because of that. 2020 was 2020 was a very crappy year for video games.
And humans.
And humans in general. Was just a crappy year. I mean, like, from a game standpoint, Marvel Avengers, 2K20, and Cyberpunk 2077, 3 of the worst games in years have come out in that 1 year.
But we also
thank goodness
Final
for
Fantasy Rebirth.
We also have Final Fantasy
remake.
No, Final Fantasy 7 remake was the savior, along with Spider-Man Miles Morales, Miles Morales was actually shadow dropped. Miles Morales, that's not all. Miles Morales and Guardians of the Galaxy were shadow dropped. Unbeknownst to us that these two games were coming out because of the atrocity that was Marvel Avengers, especially when it came to Guardians of the Galaxy, because that was also a Square Enix published game. Even though that one was a much better game and they got an award for that game, for some reason they still decided they wanted to sell the company. I thought that was such a dumb thing to do. But yeah, we had a bunch of crappy games. 2K was one of those. The theme for everybody is, and why WB Games still does this, they rush these games out prematurely, and they don't have the processing time that 2K Games has had to correct situations. And you gotta give them credit. Like you said, we gotta give them grace, and we gotta give them their flowers for being able to come out with these games every year and finally found their niche. I would also like to give credit to AEW, because we talked about this before. They lit a fire under their ass. No matter how Fight Forever you think about Fight Forever, them just coming out with a video game, it gave the ignition that 2K Games needed, because they were dragging their feet for years on end because they had no other competition. It was parallel similarities to both the video game world and the actual industry itself. When the competition came, they got on a ball on both ends. And we've been seeing some of the best 2K games we have seen in quite some time.
This one taking the cake. This one takes the cake. Right? I know we're getting closer and closer to our scores, but I just want to give this game its flowers. This game is hella fun. And I know I'll be playing this a lot this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. I mean, just a fun factor alone. I mean, so many things that you could do. It's no way, like I said, you can not even like a certain aspect of the game, but there's other parts of the game that you could spend for hours on. That's the crazy part. Whether you like all of them or just a few of them or even just one of them, each one of these modes allow you to dig into this game deeply on all aspects. There's no way you can not enjoy this game and get hours on this thing as well. So last thing I want to talk about, and this is always a fun part, is the actor performances in My Rise. Last year, I think I gave this... Well, no. Oh, God. That was hilarious. Oh, there's some new ones this year, though.
Oh, I know.
Last year, I gave it a 50% in grade, as far as grade score last year. I don't think it's gotten is increased only but slightly this year. As we got some better voice acting this year, but not by, you know what's even funnier too? I watched videos of WWE, no, SmackDown versus Raw 2006 after I was looking up the time machine thing. Their voice acting back then was really, really good, but they didn't have the visual presentation and performance that they have now. But like, you go back and watch those videos on YouTube of 2K of SmackDown versus Raw, the cutscenes. I mean, listening to Kurt Angle and Mick Foley and Booker T. Oh my God, their voice acting was stellar as hell. It's like, wow. Let me tell you, voice acting is not an easy thing to do.
No.
And it shows in this game. It shows in this game. Of course, I know a lot of voice actors, and I've learned a lot about them talk about how hard it is and how much you really have to learn how to act behind the booth.
Exactly.
And have that charisma and know how to read those lines off and everything. And in this game, you could tell who is used to doing lines in a booth and who does not.
There's another aspect to this that I was thinking about as I was listening. I forget who it was specifically, but you know that in The Simpsons, that episode, the Malibu Barbie episode, when Lisa's going to voice a doll and then Krusty walks in.
Wait, just Krusty comes in and just reads off the lines.
Yeah. That's what this feels like sometimes. It's like, we have 5 minutes of booth time with you.
He just collects his check and he has a cigar when all the time. He just collects his check and he's out. That is one of my favorite scenes.
Same. That's what this reminds me of.
The Krusty characters. We could just go over the Krusty character because he's just an embodiment of everything that goes on in Hollywood sometimes, or in acting in general. It's hilarious. But yeah, exactly like this. I mean, there were two in particular this year that gets the Cranberry Award, I guess, for voice acting. One is Jade Cargill.
Yeah.
Jade, I love it's insane. Jade is actually a pretty good promo. Jade can actually, and when you look at her live, she can be herself. Reading the lines in here really sounded like she was just reading off the lines.
Hey, it's been a bit. How have
Busy. Good to see you again, Jade. You've been on one hell of a run in WWE. Not that I'm surprised. When we worked together, I always knew you were destined for big things.
I appreciate that. And from what I'm hearing, you might be following in my footsteps.
Maybe. You never know where I'll show up next.
Really? Because I just saw you talking to a WWE producer. But if you don't want to say, I respect that.
We'll have to finalize who we're going with, but you'd be a huge get for our side.
Funny. CM Punk pretty much said the same exact thing.
What do you mean?
When he DM'd me after stabbing you and your partner in the back, and even before all that, Mutiny has been begging me to join them since the beginning.
Pathetic.
I know, right? Punk thinks we have some type of bond, but I came here for that WWE shine, not some grungy revolution.
And gave no personality whatsoever. She's not the only one. I felt I forgot who else was the other one that was in here that did it, but everybody else after that was okay. Like Cody Rhodes did well. Truth was really good in here. I'm telling you, you gotta play that other that Time Machine one. Him and Cody are hilarious together. This is the part I love about Cody too. Because before Cody was back in WWE, you remember he was part of the Elite. And he was part of being the Elite. So we got to see his comedic chops. There you go. We got to see his comedic chops throughout this whole thing. Oh, that's right. He's busting out. Ladies and gentlemen, WWE provided this man with a great gift. You want to talk about that real quick before we go on?
No, this was provided to me by a few people, and look at this beaut. Look at this beaut.
It is a limited edition, specially custom WWE Cody Rhodes edition belt. Like Cody hasn't even wore this damn thing.
Love this. Just gonna, as we finish up this conversation.
Why not? It's more than appropriate at this point. So Yeah, Cody in here is just, you remember that he has comedic chops. We saw his side. This is the great thing about Cody Rhodes is he can play all different roads, no pun intended, in here and be able to adapt to different people. Whether he's with a comedy character like R-Truth or not, it's tremendous. And this little cutscene, and it doesn't take away from his demeanor, his normal demeanor. And it's just fantastic what he does. I highly recommend people go and do that time travel one. But I think this was hit or miss for me because this year's your character this year, I thought the voice, they had a new voice for this year's male creative character. Do you know? Yeah, much better than last year's because it felt neutral. So he could sound like he's a character of color. He could sound like he's a Caucasian character as well. So I like the fact that there was a blend. Last year, it just didn't feel like it just sounded the same. The female character this year, yeah, it did. This year's female character was tremendous as well. Absolutely loved it.
Much better.
Both of them, they did much better. I mean, like if I just went on them alone, they would probably get a way higher score. But there's just so many people here. But for the most part, majority of people in here did better. It was just like I found one or two people in the game that just didn't sound like. I think Bianca might have been the other one. I'm not sure. But
it was Naomi or Bianca. I forget which one.
No, it wasn't Naomi. I can guarantee you when Naomi sounded great.
It was Bianca.
It might have been Bianca. It might have been Bianca, which I'm finding really funny because they have so much way more charisma than they do in this game. So I don't know if it was a scheduling issue or something like that led to that. It could be, it could be scheduling issue or what. Yeah, it could be a lot of things that go into that.
They could be up to the point, and I kind of want to talk to someone about this because I also feel like it's I know as a fact that if they can't get you into the studio, they'll ask you to just read the lines on a cell phone or something, right?
Well, it's basically what they call closet studio. Yeah,
exactly.
So, I mean, during the pandemic, this was a known thing. A lot of voice actors would, because they couldn't go to the studios because of the pandemic or whatever like that, they would have to create closet studios. So sometimes the closet has enough acoustics for you to be able to, do the type of thing. Like, as a matter of fact, go on talktomelive.com. Watch one of not the recent Kyle Hebert interview that I do, but the second one, because that was done during the pandemic. He was literally in his closet talking to me during that time because we were all quarantined. So it's one of those situations when I did the panels in 2021, there was a lot of closet interviews and all that stuff too. So it could be that they couldn't do it on a plane because it's too much turbulence and too much sound in it. They would have to have done it in a confined area, in a closet area where there's, a lot of, negative, space and sound in there. But they could have read off the lines. And that thing is that they probably didn't have a ADR director to show them how they would have it because they had to read those lines and stuff like that. So yeah, it's very possible that could have been a situation.
Sometimes you don't know the context of the line you're reading. So how you deliver it, it could be like, hey, you there, stop. There's so many ways that you can say
right.
Hey, you there, stop. Or hey, you there, stop. Or if you're reading, hey, you there, stop. Like there's so many different ways.
But that's the importance of. But you just described why the importance of having an ADR director, right there with you to say like, okay, now I need a little bit of this. Even when I have, my guest do certain liners for me for the show, we talk about how I want it to be said, and which is the only directorial time I ever had to work with voice actors. It's like, can you do me a liner for real quick and just do this? And then like, we'll do 2 or 3 of them. It's like, I should get an IMDb credit for doing that. I work with this person and this person, but nonetheless, like that, they probably didn't have that aspect in there. They probably didn't have that. They just, like you said, they probably just had to read the lines. So I'm sure there's a reason for that. It's not like they just bad at doing voice lines. It probably is that like due to circumstances in their schedule, which if you follow Jay Cargill alone, she does, even when she's, even when she was rehabbing, she was still working.
How is she a mother? How is she a mother on top of this all?
No, a mother on top of this and on top of owning a sports team.
Yeah.
With her husband. You know what I'm saying? Like You know what I'm saying? Like she's on a hustle every single time. And I'm sure Bianca's always on the road as well. So, you know, it's just one of those situations. I hope they can find a way next year to make sure everybody is on point, because they constantly doing this stuff. And, you know, I guess they don't know what they're going to write or what the story is going to be. But yeah, I wish it would have been better. But yeah, due to circumstances, I would have probably given this a higher score, if not for a few. But nonetheless, the rest of it, majority of it I thought it was pretty good. It was very entertaining, but you know, it's just always going to be that situation with WWE for that. But overall, what did you think?
Great game. I loved it. Honestly, best WWE 2K game to be released.
I agree. It's hard to argue this. To those who just think that this is the same game, this is so far not the same game, especially when you add on to those.
It's the same because it's a wrestling game. It's the same because you punch,
and it's core.
You kick, you grapple, but it's so different in so many different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are at the end where we're going to give the final score for this. So I'm going to let the champ go first, but I'm going to give you the category. I want you to give me a percentage of what you thought. It will result in the total score curve and grade for it. So let's start with originality in terms of from 0 to 100%. Where did you give originality?
Are we starting with originality or story?
No, originality. We'll get to the story part.
Okay, 90.
Originality in terms of how authentic is the game experience for you?
Yeah, 90. I'm giving this a 90 because it differentiates.
That's awesome.
From other WWE games.
Okay, awesome. Visual presentation and performance. Now, before we say this, I must add that not everybody looked as accurate and we didn't talk about that either. Not everybody looked as accurate as they did in on previous games or whatever like that. I will give it a big example. I just showed you a picture of DDP where he has this huge head, like this JD McDonough style head or Jordan Devlin style head in here. There was a proportionate scale perspective difference in there, but then there's Charlotte Flair. And I made a joke on Threads that people seem to cling on to that got hit and traded so many times. I am sorry, she did kind of look like Marjorie Taylor Greene in a lot of ways in there. But there are other people who are also looked very accurate. Alondra Blaze, I thought looked awesome in the game. There was some really good people. There were some people in there.
The showcase they looked amazing. Here's the thing. I'm gonna give this a 90, and I'm gonna justify the 90 because yes, there were some flaws, but I think overall, with just the sheer amount of characters, they got
over 300.
Yes,
that's another thing we didn't talk. It's like over 300 characters in this game. It's just ridiculous. I mean, the most ever, and does this not even beat Fire Pro at this point? I don't think Fire Pro had like 300 characters in the game, did it?
Not original characters, built by the the producers.
Well, no. That's like 300 known characters, plus 300 on top of fictitious characters, on top of your characters,
exactly.
And there's no limit to how many characters you can make.
Exactly.
That's the insanity of this game. It's just this is 3D Fire Pro at this point.
So yes, that's why I'm giving it the visual presentation 90, because you have some great examples of people looking off. They may look very different from last year, but overall, with the sheer amount of characters that they have, you got to show some respect.
Yeah, absolutely, agreed. Sound and music.
I'm giving this an 80. Right?
Okay.
Overall, I thought the sound was great. Music, we had already talked about some of the could be better.
Yeah. Yeah. Gameplay.
The gameplay, I'm giving this a 90 overall.
Okay.
Everything I've played, I haven't said I don't like that. Honestly, what took points away for me was the AI and some of the mini games and stuff. But outside of that, really enjoyed it.
Fun factor.
100.
All right.
How can I not? I've had a lot of fun.
Replay value.
This one I thought about a lot.
Yeah.
But what have I been saying throughout? Like, not only
You're going to be playing this again for hours.
Exactly. 4 hours. Yeah, when I'm done work. Not only do I still have a lot to unlock, not only do my own metrics show how much I play this. So I can't wait to keep playing this game. I'm giving this a replay value of 90.
90. All right. Got that. And actor performances?
70.
I love this. I love this. Last one.
We understand.
Yeah.
We understand many reasons, but we have to be honest to ourselves and to this game that the actor performances, all excuses aside, could have been better.
Right. And last category, story, My Rise.
85. I really like
85.
this story a lot.
Okay. 85. So, and here we go. All right. Very interesting scoring here. Very interesting. You get a total score of 347.5, which is a 86.9 percentage, which leads, in fact, to an appropriate B plus, which is very interesting in accordance to my score here. So for my score, originality, I also gave it a 90 because while it is, at its core, the same wrestling game that we're used to for the last couple years, they tweaked and made it better than it was the prior 2 times. So even if it is the same core system, much like Street Fighter is to and Tekken is and Mortal Kombat, there's always some new tweaks to the game that adds the playability and experience that makes it better. So, and then on top of that, there are other outside experiences that differentiates itself from other games prior to. You're not playing the same game experience in its totality than you have other cities. So when people say that, they're talking out of their ass, because these are people who rather didn't play the last game and just talking and just making stuff up and providing misinformation or disinformation to the situation. And
which
they probably
happens a lot in video game reviews.
I heard. But you know what I'm saying? It's just like, you don't understand the difference of this. You just don't. And I truly believe so. They get a 90 for me. Presentation and visual presentation and performance also gets a 90 for me because some things were a lot of things looked great, but then there were some things that didn't. And again, it's just one of those things that they're going to keep tweaking on his game. And it's only been a week. And considering it's been a week and all that we've seen was really great so far, it's down the line that this game is going to be better by in like 3 to 6 months from now.
Just got released now, right?
And it just got released now. So I mean, kudos to what they've been doing for all this time on this. Sound of music for me, I gave it a 75. A lot of songs were hit and miss. Some of them I could just mute my game and just play without hearing the music. But there were some things in there. Oh, commentary is pretty much the same too. I want to add too. It's just like, which again, far and away better than what it was prior years. Like the commentary has gotten much better than prior years before. It's not as repetitive as it was, so I didn't mind it. But it's like, it is what it is. It's still something I can do without. It doesn't. I don't have to have the audio on and listen to that. Gameplay, I think because of the AI, like you said, I gave it an 85%. Hopefully they'll tweak that up, down, and I can curve my grade, down the line for that. But gameplay in terms of, and you also got to think, it's not just the game controls, but the handicap of the actual characters themselves. We talk about Tamina. Tamina has a huge disadvantage in a multi-man in a multiple in a money in a bank match situation. Can you change the movesets of the actual characters?
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. We should try that.
Yeah, I got to look into that. I almost think you can, because she needs a revamp. Period. Like, I'm almost about to make her a ninja in this case. In that case situation. Fun factor, I gave it a 90 because while I love all the things that I love, still not a big fan of my faction. Still not a big fan of I'm not as I would have been a better fan, and this probably would have got a better grade if the island provided that exclusive content to the other modes. But I see where they're getting with that. It's like, I don't want to play the island all the time and use those things. I need them to, transition that over. So hopefully they'll do. But otherwise, still a lot of fun. Replay value, I'd be remiss if I didn't say 100% because I'll be playing a lot of games this year, but this is my go back to game every single time. When I'm not playing and reviewing another game, this is my leisure game. This is the game I always go back to.
That says a lot.
And my insight data, my metrics says that every single year. So it's just, I mean, the amount of hours that I put into the 24 is just ridiculous. It is. And voice acting, I also gave it a 70. That's exactly what I came up with. Again, based on what we talked about before, but let's see how they do next year. I mean, for the most part, the My Rise mode was great. Probably should deserve a little bit more because I'm basing it on certain aspects and we don't know the aspects, but the execution was still there. Voice acting, I mean, the acting performances probably should get in a curve better, but it is what it is. Story, I thought was 100 though. I love the angle and I love the significance of the story. I love, like I said, the meta messaging that we're being given. It's all about meta messaging. Yes, it's an invasion angle, but when you talk about why they're invading, I mean, it's almost like this whole entire storyline was written by Jesse Ventura in a lot of ways. Because, like, this is like, what would Jesse do?
That's amazing.
In a time like this, I would have loved if Jesse Ventura was the main villain of this whole entire thing. Like,
honestly, we're at a point where I wouldn't be shocked if he becomes a manager.
Exactly. And it would be you seeing Punk's manager. That would be very interesting. That would be very interesting. But no, I mean, there's a lot of significance to this. And it, for me, as a person who now is in his second year of WWE, I can't believe it's almost about to be a year to WrestleMania 40. This is insane. And look what has been happening since. I have not looked back. I have not regretted it. And the meta messaging and what they were talking about in this game involving, how this is a new, era and we need to make changes. And, the members of, I was about to say Nexus, the members of NXT want change and they're willing to erase all of the past of WWE to do it because they're tired of their old regime. That meant a lot for me. I really appreciated that. I gave the story 100 for me for that. So my score is a little bit higher than yours. It's a 350 even with an 87.5, but it results still in a B+. So we basically got the same reaction from the whole entire game experience. It is a really great accomplishment from them. It may not be the best video game of the year, but in terms of wrestling, it's definitely the best on the market right now. And it's only going to get better from this point on. This has only been a week. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Boris, thank you again for always coming on and always enjoy this time as I do always. Before we go, you got to represent A+ Productions. Let us know where we can find you and what you provide and all that stuff.
A+ Productions, your stop for sports, entertainment, and wrestling. Honestly, we love talking. We love just having fun on A+ Productions. That's what we do. We talk and we have fun. We have special guests like Dax. We have special guests like anyone, really. We're really about the community. If it wasn't for the community, we wouldn't be around, as you know, Dax. And we just do it because we have fun. We don't want this to turn into a job. We don't want this to turn into drama. We just like to have fun. A+ Productions is the best place for you to go to find everything. We have 3 different feeds. So if you don't want to listen to sports, you don't have to listen to sports. If you don't want to listen to entertainment, you don't have to. But everyone wants to listen to wrestling. So aplusproductions.com is the best place to go. We also have a very active Facebook group. Go to facebook.com and search for A+ Productions, and you can get everything A+ Productions there. We have a weekly show for wrestling, which right now we're tinkering on the days. We're taking a look at, everyone releases something on the weekend. We might be different. So we're going to be doing some minor changes there. And, after Elimination Chamber weekend, and getting the name out there. It is time to take A+ Wrestling to the next level. You're going to be seeing more guests, more interviews, more interaction with the wrestling community. A lot of fun things coming, my friend, my man. And thank you so much for always having me on and all of your support, through thick and thin.
Folks, this is a lesson on how you need to communicate with people online and not be afraid to reach out to people. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what friends you're going to find. And the internet doesn't have to be a cesspool of enemies that you make. You can actually reach out and actually find common, ground with people, and you never know what's going to come out of it. So, I reached out to Boris, and Boris reached out to me, and we've been having a great time since, and we've done some great things together. He's in Canada. I'm in, Philadelphia. Like, if we can make that happen, imagine what the world can do if we all come together and, enjoy each other's fandoms rather than, rival them. So I say that to say, like, oh, don't get me started with that. That's another one I'm looking forward to this year. Yeah. But I appreciate this because this is the 10th year of Talk Time Live. And part of this road is being able to, be a part of what was Sunday night's main event. And then also, you at A+ and the things that I've been able to do with you and all the things that I've been able to do for the past 10 years and the people I've been able to meet. None of that would have happened if I was afraid to reach out and network or just befriend people and stuff like that. It's one of the greatest things I've ever done. And I'm grateful for all of you guys.
Yes, man. Absolutely. Chris Van Vliet said it best. What's the worst answer that someone can give you? No.
Yeah.
Never harm in reaching out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agreed. And I've had my news. We've all had our news.
We all got it.
But we all got some yeses and ways, and those yeses mean a lot. So yes, thank you to everybody. Thank you to you, Boris. That'll do it for us, folks. On behalf of myself, this is Dak Xavier. Let me rephrase that. This is on behalf of myself and the American Nightmare champion, Boris Roberto Aguilar. All I got to say is learn to let go, live life, and love all things anime, comics, movies, and games, and in this case, pro wrestling. This is ACMG Presents Talk Time Live in accordance with A+ Productions. We are out of here. Take care, and you guys have a great week.